Hey, this is Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is REKT.
Hello and welcome to REKT Podcast. I am Bunchu alongside my esteemed colleague and co-host, Crypto Chamber. Chamber, how are you, buddy?
Doing pretty good. It's a civic holiday here in Canada. We got an extra day off on Monday, so my daughters took me to the Disney store, I guess.
Oh,
that was fun.
A whole new world?
No, they're into, what do we watch? The Descendants. I don't know if you're not like a...
It sounds like a horror movie.
It is a horror movie. You're thinking of The Descent, which is a terrific horror movie. The Descendants is... it's a horror movie in its own right, really. It's basically the kids of all the Disney characters in a live action movie.
Sounds
it's pretty awful.
And with us today, we have a very special guest, Ben from BTC Sessions. How you doing, Ben?
Hey, I'm great, you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're a fellow Canadian. So what is this holiday all about that you guys have off that I do not?
I honestly have no idea. I just know that I'm not working today and that I get to enjoy a beverage as I do this podcast with you. So thank you.
That is always welcome here on REKT Podcast. So, Chamber, you don't know what the hell this holiday is either?
So I Googled it.
Okay.
So Civic Holiday is the most widely used name for a public holiday celebrated in most of Canada on the first Monday in August, though it is only known by the term by the governments of Nunavut and the Northwest Territories. So everywhere except for those two territories celebrate the Civic Holiday. Civic Holiday is also recognized as a statutory holiday in the rest of Canada. So everybody's got a day off except for, unfortunately, the people that are in those territories.
Man, imagine that. That'd be like all the United States having off except like Alabama.
Alaska.
Yeah,
Alaska.
Exactly. I'd be like, hey, it's Memorial Day except for you guys.
Sorry.
Keep working in the snow.
Yeah, right. No kidding. Anyway, awesome. So we'll get started here. Ben, I got to tell you, we just got in contact, a couple weeks ago for the first time, but I have to say, I got into crypto probably early 2017. Early 2017. And I don't know how I came across you, but you were one of the first people I actually followed on crypto Twitter and started learning about Bitcoin from you without ever realizing until we just got in contact again a couple of weeks ago. How crazy is that?
That's wild. That's honestly, anytime anybody tells me that they've watched anything I've done, it really does kind of blow my mind. So that's a huge compliment. Thank you.
I think I heard you, I don't know if you were doing a podcast or something at that time. I'm not even sure how I found you, but there was not nearly as many podcasts as there are now. And I was listening to like the Bitcoin Podcast Network or something like that. And I feel like I heard you on maybe something they did, or I'm not even sure how I came across you. But then I went and watched a bunch of your stuff and learned about Bitcoin, and it was dope. So thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for watching. I'm stoked about that.
Absolutely. So, first question, we got to ask, we ask all of our guests their origin story. So you've been doing this for quite some time. How did you get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and how, what was the progression to be where you are today?
Yeah, I would say, well, I kind of started noticing it in 2013. I saw a few random headlines, and each time the price was exponentially higher. And I remember every time seeing it going, I missed the boat. Whoops. And then it got to kind of like the blow off top at the end of 2013, and I figured, okay, well, it's time to do some reading. Either this is a gigantic Ponzi scheme or there's something more to it. And so I probably did about 3 months or more of solid reading and researching before I put any money in. And I remember I bought my first $50, and like the next day Mt. Gox collapsed. And the thing, but honestly, like I thought I would have freaked out in that situation, but really I had already learned enough to understand the difference between the currency itself failing versus a business with terrible practices. And so I was actually pretty much at ease, and I kind of followed the rest of the bear market all the way down to the lows of the beginning of 2015 and rode that out and came back. And I remember finally sweet vindication at the beginning of 2017 when it reachieved kind of its previous all-time high, and I was like, I was right. I wasn't just a total idiot. Yeah, and I started the YouTube channel around early 2016 because those first couple years were tough. There wasn't a ton of great educational material out there that wasn't painfully boring, with the exception of Andreas Antonopoulos was a solid source to learn, but I've had a very difficult time finding too much else that I found to be entertaining and educational. It was always, difficult to get through various concepts. Now there's so much, and I'm glad to see that. But I essentially just told myself, hey, I'll do a video a week on whatever topic I enjoy, and I'll just continue doing that. And I haven't stopped since, and I've actually increased the number of videos I'm doing. So I do some news stuff now along with educational stuff. So yeah, that's kind of been my progression, and now I'm working for a Canadian company called Bull Bitcoin here in Canada, and it's kind of like a brokerage, but it also allows people to pay any bill they have with Bitcoin, which is kind of sweet. So I'm enjoying it. Glad I can make this my full-time gig.
So how does that work? Talk about the Bull Bitcoin. How? Because I'm actually looking at the website here right now. So you can pay any of your bills in Bitcoin? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, so essentially the way it works is this is actually a culmination of two different old school Bitcoin companies. One was Bitcoin Brains, which was based in my city in Calgary here, and it was actually the first physical location on the planet that you could walk into with cash and buy Bitcoin. And the other one is Bills, which was based out of Montreal by Francis Pouliot, and at the time it was actually under a different owner, but he acquired it. But essentially it's a service where you are able to send your Bitcoin to Bills, and they will pay essentially more or less any bill for you. So like if you want to pay somebody's direct bank account, if you want to pay your cell phone bill, your hydro bill, your taxes in a lot of cases, pretty much anything you can think of, you can mostly find on Bills. So it's mostly a you can buy Bitcoin on the cheap for minimal fees, and you can spend Bitcoin on most things that you could think of.
That's pretty cool. So how long have you been associated with them?
So the name of the company actually wasn't even really thrown out there until December of last year. That's when it was first kind of announced, I suppose. But I was involved with the company since September of 2018. So that was kind of the planning phases of how are these companies going to come together and what is the brand going to be and all that kind of stuff. It's super Bitcoin centric, Bitcoin only. We want to build kind of the payment rails and the utility on Bitcoin itself so that we don't have to divide our focus amongst other things.
Chamber, did you have a question?
I was going to say, I was hoping he was going into the song, pay my telephone bills, pay my automobiles. But unfortunately, unfortunately, I didn't hear that. So I'm gonna have to try and find a drop and put it in. Yeah, exactly.
That's really funny. I'm on this site now, and I actually just never realized. I guess I knew this, but I didn't realize how drastic the difference between Canadian dollar and U.S. dollar is. So a one Bitcoin for a Canadian dollar is 15,000. $306 at the current moment, which
Yeah.
is, hey, look, that's you're almost at 20K.
Yeah,
I
man.
think it
Yeah.
peaked. I think it peaked at like 23K Canadian. I want to say. Does that sound about right?
It almost went up to 25.
Is that right? Yeah, it's pretty.
Chamber, do you ever buy in Canadian or do you always buy USD? How do you?
So
I've never asked you that.
I use Canadian dollars to buy Bitcoin, but when I'm tracking everything, I'm always using USD, because I think at the very start I was using CAD, but you're on Twitter and everybody's talking. It's just like we're talking apples and oranges. So very early on, I just converted to USD for my tracking and monitoring. So when I'm monitoring pricing, it's always in US dollars.
It's pretty much
about you,
ditto.
Ben?
Ditto for me. Yeah, I it's all USD when you're talking on Twitter, but when I go to buy, it's like that slap in the face of like, oh no, it's 15K. Oh God.
Jeez, but that's okay. Like when you make it, so when it's when you're having positive momentum in the market, and you're like, oh, I made $500, on that move. Well, it's $500 US. And I'm like,
so
wow, it's like $650, right?
Yeah.
It's like $650.
That's
So yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
So, Ben, so now you spend a lot of your time obviously making videos for YouTube, teaching people about Bitcoin. When you were first getting in, what resources were there for you? You mentioned Andreas. What else was there out there at the time?
Yeah, so there was actually I believe it was on Udemy. There was a course that I found, and it was something along the lines, the name is kind of escaping me, but I know the gist of it. It was something like how I learned to stop worrying and love crypto or love Bitcoin. I'm not sure. It was one of the two. But essentially it was some dude who just made a free course that went through kind of what it is, how Bitcoin worked, the intricacies of why it was different from the dollar and many other fiat currencies, and what could possibly go wrong, like what were the weaknesses and how likely were they. So it was pretty damn informative, and I think there must have been like 10 or 12 30 to 45 minute sessions that I could listen to. And by the time I kind of got through that, I felt like I had a solid base, and it prepped me not only for the promises that Bitcoin brought and kind of the leg up we would have above fiat currency, but it also kind of prepped me for in case you see this happen, that's not good, and run away kind of thing. So it kind of gave me both sides of the story. And so mentally I think that's why I didn't freak out when Mt. Gox collapsed, because it wasn't really on my list of stuff that would happen that would worry me. I knew it freaked out the market, but at the same time I was like, well, nothing has changed for the currency itself, so all good. So yeah, that's kind of where I started, was this how I learned to stop worrying and love crypto.
That's pretty cool. So for anybody getting into crypto now or who hasn't been involved for very long, what is the best advice that you could give? So
I always tell people this. I tell them a couple things. Number one, I say, first, try to understand Bitcoin. Try and understand the circumstances that led to it being created. Try and understand what it tried to solve, the actual reason why it was created, and then, only then, move on to other things, because that will give you a solid litmus test for which to contrast and compare whether something is legitimate, what trade-offs it has made to excel in other areas, and if it's just BS or not. And so I say, understand Bitcoin first before moving on to anything else, at least on a rudimentary level, not like, oh, I looked at it for a day and then I moved on, but really, really try to understand it and feel like you have a good, solid understanding. Outside of that, I try to say to people that your investment in anything, whether it be Bitcoin, crypto, or stocks or whatever, your investment level should directly reflect your level of understanding of the asset itself. So if you just heard about something on Twitter and you heard it was going to pump, probably not a great idea to dive into it. If you're buying something because you literally just saw the number go up, you're going to sell when you see the number go down. So do your due diligence and try to understand where you're putting your capital.
Chamber, you follow those rules?
I do not. I like to make my own rules. They haven't worked for me very well.
That's funny. I think you should probably try to follow those.
I'm taking some notes. Yeah, I'm definitely taking notes for this one.
That's funny. So, Ben, so, obviously, you're the BTC Sessions. You talk about Bitcoin. Are you exclusively Bitcoin as far as, what you're involved in and what you talk about? Or are you into alts? Would you call yourself a maximalist? You know where I'm getting at there.
Yeah. I would definitely, at this point, call myself a Bitcoin maximalist. And there's reasons for that. So a lot of people look at Bitcoin maximalism and they assume that it's attributed to closed-mindedness or stubbornness. And in my case, at least, that has not at all been the path that I have kind of gone down to come to this place. It's actually been very carefully thought through positions. And I kind of came to a spot where I said, well, again, why am I here? What drew me to the space? What were the innovations that I believe Bitcoin was created for? And what are the conditions or qualities I believe are important in order to maintain those potential promises? And so I set out a checklist of qualities I thought were necessary in order to be kind of a global, censorship-resistant, sound money. And inevitably, when I look at
give me an example of what was on there, of what's on that checklist.
Okay, so I mean, number one is obviously it has to be sound money. Is there a limited supply? How is it issued? Was it pre-mined, or do people have to actually do work to create new coins? Is there a central figurehead? This is a lot of one that this is a major point that most other coins are just completely non-starters for me. Is there a central entity that I can point to that says, if this person dies or if this person says something, can they direct the outcome of the coin by something that they say in passing? And so I view kind of central authorities or figureheads or associations or anything like that as kind of a minus and a non-starter for me. The other thing is how easy is it for an individual to run the protocol themselves if they choose to do so and actually self-verify all the transactions? Because I believe if we get to a point where that is only done by large data centers and large companies, well, I mean, a centralized entity checking the validity of transactions sounds a lot like a bank to me. And so I try to stray away from that, and I try to make my belief is that it should be as accessible on the base layer as possible in regards to actually verifying the protocol and verifying the transactions.
Interesting. I tend to agree with you. And it's funny because I've also come from basically a journey from, hey, Bitcoin's cool. Oh my God, all these 2,000 altcoins are super cool. And now I have like 3-4 different things that I hold, and that's pretty much it. And so, Chamber, you're on the other side of the spectrum still, correct?
I mean, not too far. The story's a little different. I have a shitload of alts. I am slow. I would say probably over the last 2 to 3 months, I've slowly, dabbled in maximalism. I haven't purchased, I probably haven't purchased a new bag in a while.
Wow, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, I just, I think I'm waiting for. What do the intelligent people call it? Confirmation. Yeah. So I'm getting confirmation of declining alts. I want to see confirmation of inclining alts, I guess.
I see. So Ben, I have to ask you now then, because just of recent news and all of this stuff, what are your thoughts on Libra? Because, we're sitting here talking about sound money, centralized entities, all that stuff, and it kind of sounds like you would have a negative opinion on Libra.
Yeah. So as far as Libra is concerned, again, I don't think it's a competitor to Bitcoin or really any decentralized per se cryptocurrency. There are aspects of it that are decentralized, at least somewhat more than our current, central banking system. But realistically, this is the way that they've presented it is it would be a basket of fiat currencies backing it. So number one, already, the appeal of having a blockchain there is that the asset itself is supposed to be digital so that you can actually verify it. If you have physical assets or assets that aren't on that blockchain that are pegged to it, you've just taken a trustless system and you've injected trust into the equation. So what I mean is, okay, so let's say you have one Libra coin and it's backed partially by the pound, the dollar, and the euro. Well, who is auditing those pounds, euros, and dollars to ensure they're there? You already have to trust somebody. So in that essence, what is the point of using a blockchain even? Like, it seems odd to me. But furthermore, when I started to dive into it, I started to think, well, I mean, it's a basket of currencies to help its stability, and it's going to be its own free-floating currency. So what's to stop Facebook from down the line nixing one of those fiat currencies and subbing in Bitcoin? In which case, maybe that could be a bit of a Trojan horse, right? Where you start to get away from fiat currencies because they keep on being devalued, and Facebook wants to actually back it with something a little bit more solid. I'm not huge on the idea of backing something with something else. I'd rather just utilize the actual currency, but possibly in the future it could be a little bit of a Trojan horse if it ever launches in the way they want it to.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think there is a big if there. If it gets, I think it's a lofty goal for them, and we'll see if it ever comes to fruition the way they've originally written it out. You see all the hearings and everything already happening with it. People, other countries, are saying they're going to ban it and everything like that. So we'll see if that ever comes. But I do think it's been helpful to kind of bring, and I'd be interested in your opinion on this too. I was talking about this with you, Chamber, the other day, that I think it has been helpful of bringing Bitcoin to light in Congress and things like that for a regulation standpoint, and it's been important that they've kind of been able to define the differences between what Libra is and Bitcoin is. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. It's been insane. If you would have told me that somebody in the House of Representatives would have brought up the contrast between Bitcoin and shitcoins, it would, even just like a month or two ago, like it blew my mind. I couldn't believe it. And just to see people starting to put the pieces together of, oh, this is what the value proposition of something like Bitcoin is, where, Facebook has to go to Senate hearings and Bitcoin cannot attend Senate hearings. So I think it's really outlining for the public at large what the difference between these systems are.
Yeah, interesting.
Who would Chamber. I was going to say, who would you send to a Senate hearing if you had to represent Bitcoin?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one because honestly, I don't think any one person could really represent it well. Honestly, the best thing you could do would just be send an angry, screaming mob that is just indecipherable and you can't tell what any of them are saying. And that's basically a perfect representation of Bitcoin because nothing gets done until all those people in the room agree on something.
That's pretty funny.
That's fair.
All right, Chamber, are you ready to get to some news?
I sure am.
All right, let's get to the news. All right, you going to start us off here?
I am. We'll start off with some governmental talk.
Since we're on the topic.
Since we are on the topic and we want to keep it in the same vein here, this is from theblockcrypto.com. SEC Commissioner Pierce says U.S. is not sitting idle over crypto regulations, but could learn from other countries. This is interesting stuff here. Hester Pierce, a commissioner at the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, has said that the U.S. has not been sitting idle toward finalizing cryptocurrency regulations, but could learn from other countries' initiatives in the space. Pierce, also known as Crypto Mom.
I didn't know she was known as the Crypto Mom.
I didn't know Hester was a female name, if I'm being 100% honest. Known as the Crypto Mom, made the comments in a forum organized by Singapore University of Social Sciences last week, saying that as a lot of activity is happening outside of the U.S., quote, we have to think about our regulations with sensitivity for cross-border considerations, cooperation, and what I call co-learning. The SEC could take ideas from countries such as Singapore, Thailand, Hong Kong, Japan, as well as Malta and Switzerland in Europe. In North America, Bermuda is at the top of that list there in untangling some of our most difficult and legal policy questions in the cryptocurrency space. So some pretty, I don't know. I think that's very positive. I would say
bullish.
I think there are a lot of countries doing some good in the space as far as regulations go. And if they're recognizing that and saying, hey, we can learn from this. I always kind of take it back to Canada, how we kind of went to the forefront of cannabis legalization. And has it been a year? It's almost a year. And I would say pretty seamless. I don't know how things are in Calgary, but pretty seamless here in Ontario. And other countries learning from we're the first of the big 12 global leaders to legalize it. So hopefully other countries are learning from us, as we and the US could learn from other countries when it comes to the crypto space. So we'll see what happens, but I think pretty bullish overall.
Ben, what are your thoughts on the regulation stuff from the U.S. side?
The regulatory space is pretty interesting in that I really don't see how they will be able to keep up with the pace of innovation, because right now I'm sure a lot of the regulators are looking at the state of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency as of a few years ago and trying to base the regulations around that state of the technology, when really it's moved quite a bit past that. And every year that they have to wait on regulations, again, like if they pass down specific regulations on certain aspects of it, then all of a sudden the whole space has a roadmap of however long before those regulations actually come into existence to route around it. And so right now they're trying to regulate businesses and exchanges and things like that. And everybody is looking ahead to say, how do we make decentralized exchanges? How do we anonymize our coins? How do we get around everything that everybody else wants to do? And so it's really going to be just a constant game of catch up if they want to go that road. As far as businesses go, obviously it's very favorable if you're a business, say in the US, to have those regulations that are clear to you, because then all of a sudden you can operate your business without worrying. You can suddenly get access to banking, perhaps, things that just weren't available before. But again, I think it's just going to be a game of catch up constantly on the part of the regulators until eventually either the regulators give up or they just become completely obsolete. And I know that's a little bit of wishful thinking maybe on my behalf, but I honestly think whether or not it takes 10, 20, 30 years, I do think that may be the case, that the regulators just cannot keep up and they eventually just kind of throw up their hands in the air.
Awesome. So we have another article here from the Block Crypto Chamber.
Yes, this is an exciting one here. I don't know if you guys are big fans of Litecoin, but did you know that as of today, the block reward has been cut in half. Are you guys fans of Litecoin? Are you guys big Litecoin fans?
No, but I thought that this was a relevant article because, everybody talks about the halving, right? Mm-hmm. And the Litecoin halving obviously is just happening today.
Right.
But it did see, kind of a surge in price for a little bit. It is interesting, though. It seems like it was kind of short-lived and already priced in. So I'm curious to see what Ben thinks about like the next Bitcoin halving and what that might do.
Let me break down this article here first, and we get into the Bitcoin halving. So this is again from the blockcrypto.com. Litecoin block reward halved, triggering short-lived price rally, as Bunchu inferred there. Litecoin block rewards will be cut in half today, a move that has helped push its price over $100. As a result of the halving, miners will now only gain 12.5 Litecoin for every block compared to 25 they were receiving previously. The Litecoin network is designed to cut its mining rewards in half every 840,000 blocks. And then the cut on August 5th was triggered as the block height hit 1.6 million. The market reacted positively with the news of the price of Litecoin soared over 100 immediately after the halving was triggered. However, soon dropped below 100 and now hovers around $98. So yeah, you sell the news, right? Is that what we were told to do?
I think so.
You sell the halving.
So, I mean, it's interesting because it seems like the price was a little baked into this then in that case, which makes me curious about the Bitcoin halving because it's all people are talking about for next year. So, Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. In regards to am I a fan of Litecoin, I mean, it's one of the ones that I think is less, it wasn't created out of malicious intent, in my opinion. That said, do I hold Litecoin right now? No. But I will say that it did have a hell of a beginning of the year. Like saying that short-term price gains we're seeing I don't think is the half of it, because when you look back to the beginning of the year, it had a hell of a year. It's been crazy this year for it. But sure. If you look back historically, so I was kind of looking at this actually earlier in the year, and I was saying, okay, well, let's see what Litecoin does for its halving, and maybe I can kind of preemptively look at what Bitcoin might do for its. And so in 2015, when you look at the Litecoin halving, about a month before it, you saw a massive spike in price for Litecoin in terms of dollars and in terms of Bitcoin. And so I was kind of looking to see if that would happen again this time. But quite to the contrary, it was actually a slow, gradual rise throughout the entire first half of the year until I think about a month ago it started diving again back because it got up to, I think, 1.8% of a Bitcoin, something like that, almost 2% of a Bitcoin earlier this year. And then it just has not been able to keep up there. And so I think we may be seeing a little bit of foreshadowing about what could happen in regards to Bitcoin's halving coming up. Do I think Bitcoin's halving right now is priced in? I'm not so sure about that, but I do think that we may see kind of this slow, gradual rise in anticipation of the halving, but then no major fireworks in and around the halving. That could be a potential outcome. And then in regards to Litecoin itself, just in general, it's interesting because people get super, super excited about Litecoin when it goes up quite a bit. It's the silver to Bitcoin's gold, but people really need to pay attention to Litecoin's value in terms of Bitcoin, because at the peak in 2017, Litecoin hit like 300 and something, $350, something like that. Everybody's freaking out, going, "Oh my God, all-time high for Litecoin!" But the thing is, it wasn't. At the peak in 2017, at all-time high, Litecoin was between 2 and 3% of a Bitcoin, but that was not by far its highest price in terms of Bitcoin. That went back in late 2013 during the last major bull market. And in that major bull market, Litecoin got between 4 and 5% of a Bitcoin. So with the previous bull run, like the 2017, it barely even achieved half of its previous all-time high. And with this last kind of pre-halving FOMO, it barely even achieved 2%. So it seems to be on this kind of downward decline where if you have spectacular timing, you may be able to stack some more sats, but if you don't, then you're just kind of in a general downward decline, at least in terms of Bitcoin. I mean, anything's better than holding the dollar, I suppose, as long as you're not buying a complete scam. But yeah, that's kind of some of the reasoning why I've gravitated towards Bitcoin. I think a lot of coins will go through these types of gradual declines in terms of Bitcoin, even if they have dollar gains. And I'm just way too emotional as a trader to try and time that crap.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think we were kind of talking about something similar last week about these altcoins that have gone through cycles before, just not being able to get anywhere close to, all-time highs and things like that. And I think you're probably going to keep seeing that. Like the only ones that are going to, really do these face-melting types of pumps are maybe new projects and new listings and things like that. But it doesn't seem like the cycle is as strong on these altcoins, right, Chamber?
Yeah, you're 100% correct. It is not as strong. Well, yeah, and again, we talked about it before. I think a lot of newer projects, that's where you're going to start to see some value versus BTC. And a lot of these tokens and currencies that are around for a little bit longer, especially versus BTC, it's going to be tough to try and recapture some of those all-time highs. So I think best bets right now are on newer projects that haven't had that cycle yet. But don't listen to me. I have fucking no idea what I'm talking
about. Awesome. I got one more quick story here, and then we'll move on to some fun stuff here. Yep. Oh, wait. Actually, no, we're going to skip this story. Sorry. We're going to skip this story because I completely forgot about the other thing I wanted to talk about. So
the better news.
Yeah, the better news. So, all right. This happened today, Ben?
Yeah, this is today.
Is that what happened? Okay. So you put out a tweet here this morning that talked about how you were approached on Instagram by a scammer this morning, and you flipped the damn script. So you essentially scammed the scammer, and it was a awesome read. You posted all the screenshots to your website, btcsessions.ca, which we'll link in the show notes. We'll link to this exact post. But tell us the story. Tell us how it happened and how it ended up.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I woke up this morning to a message from, what's her name?
Susan Williams.
Susan Williams. Yes. Legitimate name. Susan Williams _ 2021 had a killer investment opportunity for me, unsolicited. And so
go on.
Yeah. Tell me more. And so we got into it, and she said that I could double my Bitcoin every 24 hours, like every other legitimate investment out there unsolicited on Instagram. And so naturally, I was super enthralled and really wanted to know more. And so I just I started messaging back and forth, and I in my half awoken still slumber, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna play along with this and just see where I can take it. And at first I was just I was like, I'm just gonna waste this person's time. But as we kept chatting, I was like, maybe I can screw this person because they're a jerk already, so I may as well. And so I just kind of kept going, and I made it seem out like I had a lot of money and not a lot of common sense. So, too much money for my own good. And so, I said I had just bought like 5 Bitcoin and cashed out some of my what did I say? I cashed out a lot of my index funds in order to do this, and my intelligent son was helping me, and so they were trying to get me to deposit a bunch. And so then I said, well, I'm just not super confident in in somebody that I just met, no offense, but maybe we could transfer money back and forth first so I can make sure it works all right. And so they tried to get me to send like $100 over, and they would send it back to me. And I said, oh, I'm just not comfortable with that. Can we do it the other way around? They said no. And then I introduced, his name was Stu Reed, the mysterious competition.
So was this just a name that you made up on the spot?
Yeah. Oh yeah. This was total bullshit. So I was like, yeah. Well, Stu Reed is messaging about me about a similar opportunity, and he's got excellent rates. And he also said that he would transfer me Bitcoin. And then meanwhile, I'm leading this person on saying that, oh, well, Stu sent me over $100, and I'm just waiting to send it back. And I've already invested a Bitcoin with him. And, I had to search up online to find like a screenshot of a Bitcoin wallet with like 4 Bitcoin in it. And then I did some Photoshop to change the US dollar amount because it was like 2 years old. and so then I ended up, I was like, I think we're done here because Stu has been nothing but accommodating in terms of easing my mind. And then eventually the person's like, well, okay, I'll send you $50 and then you send it back to me and then and then they send me $50. They sent me $50. And I was like, you freaking scammer. I am going to donate this to Bitcoin Venezuela. And basically they're like, no, send it back, please. So anyways, long story short, this person tried to scam me out of a couple Bitcoin, and I got them to send me $50, and I donated it to relief efforts in Venezuela. So that's
I think the hashtag for the show is hashtag I trust Stu.
Yeah,
does that sound all right?
I trust Stu. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think the best part of this was that you kind of played up what they do to other people, right? So they're trying to take advantage of your naivety, right? Where, okay, I don't know how to use a Bitcoin wallet. Oh, don't worry, we'll take care of that for you. Just send us your Bitcoin. We'll send you back all the returns, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then you went on to be like, well, look, I'm not really sure if I know how this works. In order to do this, can you send me a test transaction? And that's when the whole thing just got flipped on its head. And then after the whole thing, well, then they were trying to say, oh, well, there's no reason you shouldn't trust me. But I won't send you Bitcoin for the exact same reason, which I thought was really funny. Yeah. And then at the very end, I'm trying to find the exact quote here. First of all, how long did this whole interaction take?
Oh, it was a while. Oh my God. I think I'm trying to see here. Hold on. I think it started at about it was about 10 after 11 in the morning, and I ended, and this was like as I'm making breakfast and having coffee, and my wife is like, what the hell are you doing? You've been on your phone all morning. It must have been like, oh God, it was, yeah, it had to have been like a solid hour back and forth, and like at times the person would be like, oh, please, can you just send me the address you sent the 1 Bitcoin to, because I said I invested 1 Bitcoin with Stu. And so I was like, right. Oh God. So I jump on a block explorer and like look through the latest block for 1 Bitcoin transactions. I'm like, okay, I gotta find an address here.
Oh my God, that's expert.
So I was like, okay, this one isn't exactly 1 Bitcoin, but I can say that he just sent me an invoice and it filled out all weird and auto-filled the amount, and I don't know, I made some intricate bullshit up, and it seemed to work, so great.
It's amazing. So the end here comes where after the person sends you the Bitcoin, and there's been time goes by, and it says, have you checked, Ben? And then Ben responds, you idiot scammer asshole, I'm donating your money to Bitcoin Venezuela. Go get a fucking job and stop being a piece of shit. And the person responds, please don't do that. And then then another one that says please with a crying face emoji.
Oh my goodness.
And then this says, I only sent this to you to assure you about my platform. You can't do this to me. Please, Ben. Just send me back my Bitcoins. Please. That would show you're an honest man too. And then they post their Bitcoin address and then Ben gives to charity. What an epic story that is.
Oh my god. The good thing is if they were legitimate, they can just put in $50 to their own platform and double it.
Correct, right? Yeah, they'll be like, "Oh, no problem. I'll just invest $50 and I'll have I'll have my money back tomorrow." Exactly. Oh my god, so funny. Chamber, what do you think? You gonna try to go scam some scammers?
No, I want this lady's. I want to double my Bitcoin every day.
This is the blueprint.
Is there some sort of ref link I could get, or is there some sort of upside down triangle?
I'll tell you right now, Stu has way better deals.
Does he?
Stu's got way better rates. I trust Stu.
I do trust Stu.
All right.
My confidence funnel.
Chamber, what do we want to do here? We're running a little tight on time. Do we want to go back in the day, or do we want to go rapid fire here?
Let's do some rapid fire. I feel like that's going to be more fun.
All right, so rapid fire here. Ben, rapid fire is what we do on this podcast with our guests as a way to let our listeners get to know you a little more. They may be crypto related, they may be not. Just give us your best answers. So I'll start here. Now you're a Bitcoin guy now for sure, always Bitcoin. But what was the first ever altcoin you ever bought?
Oh, it was for sure Litecoin. Yeah, it was in 2014 to 2015. That was pretty much it, and maybe Doge.
Doge.
Nice.
That's a common answer. I feel like everybody from back then either had Litecoin or Doge, or they started by mining Doge or anything like that. Right?
No regrets.
Chamber, you got one?
I do. What is your favorite comfort food? So you're not feeling well. Maybe you're on death row and you have to have your last meal. What are you going for?
Oh, this is going to sound bad, but Pizza Pops, which they do not have in the States, so that's a Canadian thing, I'm pretty sure.
Are Pillsbury Pizza Pops not available in the U.S.? Bunchu, can you confirm this?
Pillsbury what?
Oh my!
Oh,
goodness.
what?
I should.
Pizza Pops, maybe. I don't know. I feel like I would know about anything pizza related.
It would have been a staple in your youth.
Then no, I have not had those.
They are a delicious. I'm with you. I'm with you on this one.
Yes.
This is a delicious after school treat. You could put them in the microwave. You could put them in the oven. I'm a big. Now you going all dress? You going pepperoni? Just cheese?
No, I like the deluxe, and I like the just regular pepperoni and bacon. The extra pepperoni.
I agree.
The extra bacon is no good. No good. Don't you dare put a Hawaiian pizza pop near me.
Uh-oh. Do they even make Hawaiian? I feel like they don't. I feel like
they do, man. My wife
really
gets them, and I have to say that I'm gonna divorce her.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm a big fan of the Hawaiian pizza, so I'm gonna have to check those out.
That's funny. All right, next question here. I like this one. What was your favorite Halloween costume you've ever worn?
Oh, as an adult or as a child? Because those are two different answers.
You could go either way or both.
Okay, let's do both, because as a kid I was just like whatever's scary, so I was typically always a vampire. But as an adult, I did a badass Venom, and I got full body paint, and so my neck was Venom's mouth.
Whoa.
And had like teeth on. It was insane.
Oh, cool.
That is awesome.
How long did that take you to do?
It took me 4 hours sitting in a chair.
Wow. Holy crap. What kind of fucking party were you going to?
It was great. It was a very adult party, but it was wonderful.
That's awesome.
That's terrific.
Very cool. Chamber, you got another one?
Yeah, well, you said you like scary stuff. Are you a big horror movie fan?
Yeah, I dabble. I'm excited for It Chapter 2.
I agree. I'm a big fan of the It movies.
I heard that's going to be like 3 hours long.
It is going to be 3 hours long, and I had a little movement in my pants when I heard that. So I was very excited. So, what's your favorite scary movie of all time?
Ooh, favorite scary movie. That's tough. So the one that actually made me jump the most was The Descent, which you guys referenced earlier.
That's really funny.
That's an absolutely terrifying movie. Yeah,
it is absolutely terrifying. The first jump scare, I had to turn it off for a moment and come back, but it was solid. As far as like when I was in kind of junior high, I think I was a huge fan of the original Scream movie, which I know is super pop culture nowadays, I guess.
It holds up. It holds up.
It does hold up, and it was such an inversion of the typical, I guess, kind of scary movie formula. And then I love.
It was the first. I was gonna say it was the first meta horror movie where it was like aware of itself. You know what I mean?
100%. And aside from that, I love myself some Michael Myers. But the theme song alone is enough to get me for that one.
Nice. Who asked that one? Use Chamber? All right, let me see. What do I got here? I don't remember ever seeing this on our list, but it's here, and I'm going to ask it. You fill in the blank here. Wearing socks to bed is
an abomination.
Yes, thank you. Jesus, is there anyone that wears socks to bed?
There's only not that's not a serial killer.
Why is that on our list? I feel like it's not even a thing.
I'm looking for serial killers. If anybody says yes, we're calling the cops right away.
Evacuate Canada.
Yeah.
All right, a couple more here. Chamber, you got another? Or you want me to go?
I feel like we got to ask the most important question. What is your go-to karaoke song?
That's my favorite.
I love my karaoke. Okay, my karaoke, my go-to song, and again, my wife fucking hates it when I sing this because I sing it directly to her. But Tenacious D, "Fuck Her Gently."
Yes, great one.
Great song.
Great one. Yes, I love that song. It was like I used to play it on acoustic guitar and sing it anywhere I went. Oh man! All right, last one here, and then we'll wrap up. What is a place on your travel bucket list?
Ooh, I love traveling. I've actually been to just under 50 countries.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I've done a lot of traveling. I cheated a little bit because I was a performer on a cruise ship in my early days. So I did that in 2009.
Oh,
but
wow.
Then I've been backpacking twice with my wife. So I guess I haven't been to a lot of places in Central and South America, so that's kind of on my list. But I've only been to like Northern Africa, so I would like to maybe hike Mount Kilimanjaro, and outside of that, oddly enough, Japan, because it's such a weird juxtaposition of a total culture shock along with extremely, first world advanced technology. And so I think those two things combined would just be a real mindfuck. And so I really want to go over to Tokyo and see that.
That's cool. 50 countries. Holy crap.
You said you're married. Do you have children? Do you mind answering that question?
I have a 2-year-old.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say it's very difficult to travel that much when once you have kids.
You know what, we started trying to, because I mean our last big trip was before we had our kid, and actually we got back and found out that my wife was pregnant within 24 hours of arriving home from a backpacking trip. Yeah.
Oh my god.
So
wow.
not a lot to do in those hostels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, we've been trying to get her traveling more and more. So she's actually better traveled at 2 years old now than I was at 23. And she's been to Mexico twice. She's done a road trip across Canada. She's been to California, and she'll be we're going to Florida with her to do the Florida Keys and the Everglades in October.
That's awesome.
That's really cool. Awesome. Well, I think that's a good spot for us to wrap up. Chamber, you got any other questions you want to ask Ben while he's here?
I don't. That was very informative. I like having smart people on. It really makes me feel better.
Don't stroke the ego too much. I'm not that smart.
Well, we're really dumb, so I mean the bar's pretty low.
Right, exactly. So anyway, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. We want to give you just a quick minute here to talk about any projects, where people can find you, anything you're working on, and your YouTube page and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to find me, the easiest place to do it would either be Twitter or YouTube. Both of them are BTC Sessions, or on Twitter at BTC Sessions. Outside of that, if you want to check out where I work at a company called Bull Bitcoin. This is only available to Canadians, but essentially, again, it allows you to buy Bitcoin and pay any of your bills in Bitcoin. And other than that, if you're a brand newbie and you need somebody to hold your hand, of course you can hit up all my free content on my YouTube. But if you need more hand holding than that, I do private sessions, and you can find that on my website, btcsessions.ca.
I'm definitely signing up for a paid hand holding session.
Yeah, but you don't want to learn about Bitcoin. You just
I just want to hold hands. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking. That's more expensive.
That's fine. That's fine.
Especially Chambers hands. Charge double.
You should absolutely charge double.
Oh, man. Ben, thank you so much for coming on. That was really fun. We appreciate it. Chamber, any last words before we go?
Nope. Just make sure to check out our website, rektpodcast.com. Check out the merch there. Make sure we've been getting a lot of 5-star ratings, so thank you for that. Any great comments we will read. Any questions you have with a 5-star review, we'll make sure to read that on air. But yeah, besides that, I'm good.
We got a good one from last time.
We did have a
review.
We did. We had one person review. They were happy with my choice in music. They said they gave us a 5-star review based on my appreciation of Amy Winehouse's Back to Black. All it says is, I agree. Back to Back is a top 10 album of all time. Very slept on. 5 stars.
Username Mrs. Winehouse.
Yeah, exactly. I wish.
Oh, man. All right. That's going to do it for us. Thank you again, Ben. For Chamber, I am Bunchu. And until next time, don't get wrecked. And that is financial advice.